Let's be brutally honest here. Most men don't know when a woman actually likes them. They either overthink everything she does or they completely miss the signs right in front of them. And here's the controversial truth. Women are not as mysterious as men make them out to be. They're actually very predictable once you understand the psychology behind their behavior. The real problem? Men are either too blind, too insecure, or too distracted to see the signals. Now, let me wake you up to something most men never realize. A woman can like you deeply, be genuinely attracted to you, and still do everything in her power to hide it. Why? Because in female psychology, showing interest openly can feel risky. Women are taught by culture, by society, even by their own experiences, that if they show too much interest first, they lose their value. They're told men should chase, men should lead, men should prove themselves. So even if she's interested, she'll fight against showing it. That's why this video is important. You see, the biggest mistake men make is thinking attraction is always obvious. You imagine she'll tell you directly, or she'll flirt in a way that's impossible to misinterpret. But the reality? Women are masters at subtlety. They'll drop hints, test you, pull back, act indifferent, and sometimes even pretend they don't care, all while secretly hoping you figure it out. And here's where it gets controversial. If you're a man and you can't read these hidden signs, you'll lose opportunities not because women rejected you, but because you failed to notice they wanted you. Think about how many times you've said to yourself, "I didn't know she liked me," only to find out later that she did. That's not her fault, it's yours. You weren't paying attention. Let me tell you something most men don't want to hear. Attraction isn't about what a woman says. It's about what she does when she thinks no one is watching, when she's trying not to look obvious, when she's fighting her own desire to keep her value intact. That's where the truth lies. For example, she might avoid eye contact with you not because she's not interested, but because looking at you too long would expose her feelings. She might act cold, short, or distant, not because she dislikes you, but because being too warm would make her intentions clear. She might even talk about other men, not because she's into them, but because she's testing your reaction, trying to see if you actually care. This is the psychology of female attraction that men need to understand. Women will often show their interest by not showing it. Sounds crazy? Maybe, but it's the truth. Women are wired to protect themselves from rejection, embarrassment, or being labeled as easy. That means when she likes you, her actions can look like the opposite. And if you're a man who only takes things at face value, you'll miss everything. Now, let's be very clear. This doesn't mean every woman who ignores you is secretly in love with you. It means that sometimes the most meaningful signals are hidden in contradictions. She texts you rarely, but when she does, it's at the most random but personal times. She avoids long conversations with you, but when she does talk, she remembers little details you mentioned weeks ago. She doesn't sit close to you, but when she walks past, her body slightly angles toward you. Those are the real signals buried underneath the surface. And here's the harsh truth men need to face. Women will never make it completely easy for you. If you're waiting for a woman to walk up to you and say, "I like you, let's go out," you'll be waiting forever. That's not how female psychology works. Their attraction is expressed through tension, through small contradictions, through hidden cues. If you can't pick up on them, you'll keep misreading situations and wondering why you never get results. So why do women hide it in the first place? Because attraction for them is also a game of control. She wants to feel desired without exposing herself. She wants to test if you're confident enough to notice, bold enough to act, and smart enough to lead. That's what separates men she keeps as just friends from men she can't stop thinking about. Here's the bottom line. Men need to stop being passive. Stop waiting for clarity. Stop thinking women will spell it out for you. They won't. Instead, start paying attention to the subtle contradictions in her behavior, the moments when what she says doesn't line up with what she does. That's where the truth is hiding. Because the biggest irony in female psychology is this. The more a woman likes you, the more she'll fight to cover it. And the only men who win in that game are the ones sharp enough to see through the disguise. This video isn't just about spotting those hidden signs. It's about training your mind to understand female psychology on a deeper level so you never miss opportunities again. By the time you finish this, you'll stop overthinking, stop misreading, and start actually seeing women for what they truly mean, not just what they pretend to show. Here's something men rarely understand. Sometimes the woman who seems the coldest toward you is the one who's most interested. It sounds backwards, but that's the psychology of attraction. When a woman feels a strong pull toward you, she doesn't always express it with warmth. In fact, she might deliberately do the opposite, act distant, uninterested, even slightly rude. Why? Because showing interest feels risky to her. If she shows you too much attention and you don't respond, she feels rejected. If she's too open, she fears being judged as too easy. If she gets too close, she risks losing the sense of control that women value in attraction. So instead of leaning in, she pulls away. Instead of being soft, she acts cold. And here's the kicker, she does it while still finding excuses to be around you. Think about that contradiction. She says little, but she's always nearby. She doesn't text you much, but when she does, it's never random. It's time to pull your attention back. She pretends she doesn't care, but somehow she notices things about you no one else does. That's the cold but close paradox. And if you're a man who only looks at surface behavior, you'll think she doesn't like you. But the truth is, she's battling with herself. Here's where most men get it wrong. They confuse coldness with rejection. They think if she's not warm, she's not interested. That's lazy thinking. A woman who truly doesn't care won't just act cold. She'll disappear completely. She won't keep finding ways to be in the same room, laugh at something you said when you're not looking, or ask tiny questions that give her a reason to talk to you. The woman who acts cold but can't stay away is playing a psychological game, often without even realizing it. Now, let me give you a story that brings this to life. A guy once told me about a coworker he thought hated him. She was always short with him, one-word replies, barely looked at him, always seemed annoyed when he spoke. He figured she just didn't like him. But here's what was strange. No matter what, she always found reasons to be near him. She'd sit at the desk next to his even when other spots were free. She'd ask about work-related stuff she could have easily asked someone else. And when he walked into the break room, she'd leave, but then circle back 5 minutes later, almost like she couldn't resist. At first, he ignored it, but over time, he noticed something. When other women talked to him, she paid very close attention. If another woman laughed at his joke, this cold coworker would tighten up, almost bristling. One day, he casually mentioned he was going to grab coffee. Without missing a beat, she said, "Oh, I was just about to get one too." That's when it clicked. Her coldness wasn't disinterest. It was a shield. She liked him, but didn't want to be obvious. This is the lesson men need to learn. Attraction doesn't always come wrapped in warmth. Sometimes it comes wrapped in ice. And if you don't learn to see past the surface, you'll walk away from women who were secretly drawn to you. So how do you know if her coldness is attraction or true rejection? Simple. Look for the pattern of contradictions. Does she act distant but keep reappearing? Does she seem uninterested in conversation but somehow remembers details you mentioned weeks ago? Does she roll her eyes at you but laugh at your jokes when she thinks you're not paying attention? That's not indifference. That's suppressed interest. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean you should chase every woman who acts cold. Many really don't care, and you need to respect that. The difference is whether her actions contradict her attitude. Indifference plus absence means she's not into you. Coldness plus constant presence, that's a sign she's fighting her own attraction. Here's the controversial part most men don't want to accept. If she acts cold but can't stay away, she's testing you. She wants to see if you're sharp enough to recognize what's happening. She wants to know if you're confident enough not to be thrown off by her distant behavior. Women don't want men who crumble the moment they get a little resistance. They want men who see through the disguise and keep their composure. That's why so many men fail. They get discouraged too quickly. They think she's cold, so she's not into me. But the man who pays attention, who looks at the whole picture instead of the surface, sees the truth. She doesn't want him to give up. She wants him to prove he's steady enough to handle her emotional defenses. The key takeaway here is this: don't take her coldness at face value. Ask yourself, if she really didn't care, would she still be here? More often than not, the answer will reveal her true feelings. Because here's the irony, sometimes the colder she acts, the hotter her interest actually burns. One of the most confusing things women do when they like you but don't want to show it is bringing up other men. On the surface, it sounds like the worst sign possible. A lot of men immediately think, if she's talking about another guy, she must be into him, not me. But here's the twist. In many cases, she's not talking about that man at all. She's really talking about you. She just wants to see how you'll react. This is where male psychology often fails. Men take words literally, but women often use words to measure emotions. When she mentions another man, she's not always revealing her interest in him. She's checking your energy, your confidence, your level of investment. She's studying you without making it obvious. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you flinch, if you show insecurity, if you act threatened, she gets her answer. Let's make this clear. A woman knows exactly what she's doing when she brings up other men in front of you. She knows it will stir something. She knows it could make you curious, uncomfortable, or even jealous. And that's the point. She's not trying to brag about some guy. She's testing if you're solid enough not to be shaken. Think about how this plays out in real life. She casually says, yeah, my friend Mark is always joking around with me, or this guy at the gym won't stop talking to me. She watches closely, not just for what you say, but for how your body reacts. Do your shoulders tense? Does your tone shift? Do you suddenly become defensive? That's what she's really analyzing. Now, here's where it gets controversial. A woman mentioning other men doesn't mean she's disrespecting you. In fact, it often means she's curious about your strength. She wants to know if you'll stay composed or collapse into insecurity. Remember, attraction for women isn't just about looks. It's about how you carry yourself under pressure. If another man's name is enough to throw you off balance, that tells her everything she needs to know. And here's what most men don't realize. If she truly wasn't interested in you, she wouldn't care about your reaction in the first place. She wouldn't even bother bringing up other men because your opinion wouldn't matter. The very fact that she wants to see how you handle it is proof that you hold weight in her mind. She values your response because your role in her life is significant. This is where you have to step back and think logically. If she brings up another guy and you immediately assume she doesn't like you, you're missing the bigger picture. Women often disguise interest behind indirect behavior. Mentioning another man is a way of saying, let me see if you care enough to react, but let me also see if you're confident enough not to overreact. It's a double-layer test. The tragedy is that most men fail. They either blow up and show jealousy too soon, or they shut down and withdraw completely. Both responses make her lose interest. The man who passes the test is the one who stays calm, collected, even slightly amused. He doesn't chase, doesn't panic, doesn't compete. He simply stays grounded, showing her that no other man can shake his sense of value. Now let's make this relatable. Think about a time when you liked a woman and she randomly mentioned another guy in conversation. Maybe it was a coworker, a friend, or some random guy she said hello to. How did you feel in that moment? Be honest, you probably felt a spark of jealousy even if you didn't show it. And that's exactly what she was aiming for. She wanted to see if you felt anything. She wanted to measure your emotional response. This is the uncomfortable truth about female psychology. Sometimes the very thing that looks like disinterest is actually a disguised sign of attraction. If she didn't like you, she wouldn't care enough to test you. Women only test men they value. So here's the lesson. When a woman mentions other men, don't react with insecurity. Don't take it as rejection. Don't even see it as competition. See it for what it really is, a test of your confidence. If you pass it, her attraction for you grows stronger. If you fail, she sees you as just another man who crumbles under pressure. At the end of the day, this behavior might frustrate you, but it's part of the game. Women don't always show attraction directly. They often reveal it through indirect strategies, through tension, through curiosity, through tests. The man who understands this never panics, never overthinks, never lets his emotions give him away. He sees the bigger picture, and that's what keeps him in control. One of the most misunderstood signs in female psychology is when a woman avoids your eyes. Most men instantly take it the wrong way. They think, if she can't even look at me, she must not like me. But that's not always true. In fact, sometimes the exact opposite is happening. A woman might avoid eye contact because she likes you too much, not because she doesn't care. Think about it. Eye contact is powerful. When two people lock eyes, it creates tension, and tension always exposes truth. If she's attracted to you, that eye contact could give her away. So what does she do? She dodges it, she looks away. She stares at her phone. She acts like she's not paying attention, yet somehow she still knows everything about what you're doing. This is the contradiction men miss. She won't meet your eyes, but she notices the smallest details. She knows when you walk into the room. She knows who you're talking to. She knows when you laugh, when you leave, when you come back. She pretends you're invisible, but in reality, she's watching everything. Here's the problem, and this is where I'll be blunt with men. You're not sharp enough to see it. Too many guys take the easy way out. They see a woman look away and immediately think, well, that's it. She's not interested. That's lazy thinking. If you actually paid attention, you'd notice her other behaviors. You'd notice that even when she's not looking at you, she's positioning herself where she can see you. You'd notice she gets quiet when you're around, or suddenly fidgets with her hands, or adjusts her hair without even realizing it. These are not random moves. They're unconscious signals. Men need to wake up. Stop looking for the obvious. Stop expecting women to spell it out for you. Attraction doesn't work like that. Women are not going to stare at you with cartoon hearts in their eyes. They're not going to walk up and announce their feelings. They're subtle because that's how they protect themselves. If you can't read between the lines, you'll keep missing opportunities. Let me make this more relatable. Have you ever noticed how some women can talk to everyone in the room easily, but when it comes to you, they suddenly become shy or awkward? They can look everyone else straight in the eyes, but when you catch their gaze, they look down instantly. That's not because they dislike you, it's because they feel something. You make them nervous. You disrupt their usual confidence, and instead of exposing that attraction, they hide it behind avoidance. But here's the thing, not all men deserve to notice this. If you're the type of guy who spends all his time on his phone, who's too distracted to actually observe people, you'll miss it. If you lack awareness, you'll keep telling yourself women don't like you, when in reality, you just don't see the signals. That's the harsh truth. So here's your wake-up call. Pay attention. Pay attention to her patterns, not just her direct actions. If she avoids your eyes but still orbits around you, that's a signal. If she acts like she's ignoring you, but somehow always ends up near you, that's a signal. If she looks away quickly every time you catch her gaze, that's a signal. Stop dismissing these contradictions as nothing. They mean something. Here's where confidence comes in. A man who understands this doesn't overreact. He doesn't chase, he doesn't panic, and he doesn't assume rejection just because she avoids his eyes. Instead, he stays grounded. He lets her have her space while calmly noticing the truth. That's attractive. Women respect men who can sense their hidden interest without being needy about it. And here's the most controversial part. If you keep missing these signs, it's your fault, not hers. Too many men blame women, saying they're confusing or hard to read. The signals are there, you're just not awake enough to see them. You've been conditioned to look for obvious clues, but attraction doesn't live in the obvious. It lives in the subtle contradictions. If you want better results, sharpen your awareness. At the end of the day, a woman avoiding your eyes doesn't mean she's not interested. More often than not, it means you make her feel something strong enough that she can't control her reaction. She hides it because she doesn't want to be exposed. And if you're the kind of man who can recognize that while staying calm and confident, you'll see the truth that most men never do. So stop being blind. Stop waiting for the obvious. Pay attention to the hidden signs, the little slips, the nervous moves, the stolen glances when she thinks you're not looking. That's where her real interest lives. If you can see it, you've already separated yourself from most men. Let's end this with a truth most men will hate to hear, but they need to. Women are not the problem, men are. Yes, I said it. And I know that sounds controversial, maybe even uncomfortable, but think about it for a second. Most of the signs I've just broken down, her acting cold, mentioning other men, avoiding eye contact while watching you, they're not impossible to notice. They're not invisible. They're there, right in front of you. The problem is that men are too distracted, too insecure, or too lazy to pay attention. Men spend so much time complaining that women are confusing, when in reality, the confusion comes from their own lack of awareness. You expect women to announce their feelings, to hand you attraction on a silver platter, to make it so obvious that you don't have to risk rejection. And that's the truth. Most men fear rejection more than they desire success. But here's the reality you need to wake up to. Women don't owe you clarity. They don't owe you a neon sign that says, "I like you." Life doesn't work that way. Attraction is not meant to be obvious, because the men who succeed in relationships and dating are the men who sharpen their ability to read what's not being said. Now, here comes the very controversial part. If you keep failing with women, it's not because they're too complicated. It's because you've chosen to remain blind. That's the uncomfortable truth. Too many men hide behind excuses. They say, "She's giving mixed signals," or "Women just play games." Number, she's not playing games. You're just not paying attention. What looks like mixed signals is often her real feelings leaking out in subtle ways that you're too dull to catch. And that's not her fault. That's yours. Here's the challenge I'm throwing at you. Stop blaming women for your lack of progress. Stop waiting for obvious signs. Stop thinking attraction is supposed to feel easy. If it feels easy, you're probably being misled. Attraction lives in tension. It lives in contradictions. It lives in those little signals that only a sharp man can see. And this is where men need to wake up. You want respect? You want attraction? You want women to see you as more than just another guy? Then become the type of man who sees what others don't. Train yourself to notice patterns, to catch the details, to read energy instead of words. Women will never spell it out for you, and the truth is, you don't want them to. If they did, the game would be boring. The very thing that makes attraction exciting is the fact that it's hidden beneath the surface. So here's the harsh reality. If you've been struggling with women, it's not because they don't like you. It's because you're blind to the ways they already show it. And until you fix that blindness, you'll keep losing opportunities. Not because women rejected you, but because you rejected yourself by refusing to grow. Now let me bring this home. This video wasn't about blaming women. It was about showing you their psychology, their patterns, the way they hide interest while secretly hoping you'll notice. But it's not enough just to understand it. You have to apply it. You have to actually watch, actually listen, actually pay attention. And I want to hear from you. How many times have you looked back and realized too late that a woman actually liked you? How many opportunities slipped away because you were waiting for the obvious? Drop your stories in the comments. Share those moments. Let's be honest with each other, because you're not alone. Every man has missed signals before. But here's the difference. You don't have to keep missing them. You can train yourself to see what others don't. And I'll be in the comments, reading what you share, reaching out, connecting, because this is about growth. It's about learning. It's about making sure that from this day forward, you never walk past attraction without recognizing it. So let's close with this. Women aren't hiding from you. You're hiding from yourself. And the day you accept that truth is the day everything changes.